Okay, for these, the first one, I get 5, 10, 20, 40, 80. For the second one, 4, 12, 36, 108, 324. And for the third one, 125, negative 50, 20, negative 8, and then 16 fifths, which is 3 and 1/5. So everybody understands how a geometric sequence works. Any questions on those whatsoever? Okay, good. Now I want you to find the nth term. And we'll go through the first one together, and then I will let you try the second one. In the first one, what have I given you? Does anybody know? Does anybody understand what's given in the first problem? Tanner?
The fourth term.
I've given you the fourth term, and what am I looking for? Which is, in this case, the fifth term. So really, what helps me in these is I draw out the series if it's not ridiculously long. I'm looking for the fifth term, and I gave you the fourth term. So how can I go from 10 to the fifth term?
Multiply by the common ratio.
Just multiply it by a half. 10 times a half, answer to that one is 5. Now I want you to do the second one. I want you to look at what's given, what they want, and see if you can figure out how to solve the problem. All right, here's what I did. I set it up that my sixth term is 5, and I'm looking for the ninth term. That's what it says. A6 is 5. Ninth term is what we're looking for. And so I would just multiply by 3 a few times. I wouldn't mess with a formula or anything. And I get 135. We did ones like this in the last section, in the arithmetic section. Obviously it looks the same, so I have to tell you whether it's an arithmetic or a geometric sequence. This is geometric. So we need to find the common ratio. You can either guess and check, which works, or you can use the formula. I'm going to be showing you how to use the formula because we haven't used the formula yet. So I'm going to show you how to use the formula. So the formula is a sub n equals a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1. And we need to put in a sub n, a sub 1, and n, just like we did last week when we were doing these with arithmetic. So when we put those in, we get that. A sub n, the last term is 2. A sub 1, the first term is 54. And n is 4. Now what we have to do is solve for r. Well, 4 minus 1 is 3. And if I divide the 54 to the other side, I get 2 54ths. Just doing my algebra work, getting the r by itself. 2 54ths is 1/27. Now I need to know what cubed is 1/27. So if you don't know that in your head, you can take the cube root of both sides. Cube root of 1 and the cube root of 27, or the cube root of 1/27, gives you 1/3. So my common ratio here is 1/3. So I'm going to be multiplying by 1/3, getting 18 and 6. I use the formula At that point, I have r squared equals 25. What we learned earlier in the year is to go from r squared equals 25 to r, you have to take the square root of both sides. Whenever you take the square root of both sides, you have to put a plus or minus on the number. So the common ratio is plus or minus 5. So you can multiply by 5 or you can multiply by negative 5. And you have to show both. So if you just wrote 15 as the blank, you are partially right, but not completely right, because you have to show both 15 and negative 15 are potential answers in the blank. So that's why it is probably not the best idea to guess and check on the ones that are geometric means, which is this type of problem. Because you have to deal with plus or minus. Now, not every problem has plus or minus. Only the ones that would end up with an even exponent where that 2 is, right here. Because if this is a 3, there's no plus or minus. Like the last problem was cube root. There's no plus or minus with the cube root. Only even exponents have plus or minus. Okay. Let's try one more like this before we move on to a different type of problem. Yeah. Go ahead and try that one. Okay, my formula looks like this. 112 divided by 7 is 16. Equals r to the fourth. Fourth root of both sides gives me plus or minus 2. So I go through and I multiply by 2. And then I go through and I multiply by negative 2. And there are my possible answers. Find the indicated term. Go ahead. One way is to just write out the sequence. Multiply by 6. Correct answer, 4,374. One way to do it. Or if you wanted to use the formula, you would fill in the first term, the common ratio, and n, and crank out that calculation, which is 4,374. Find A7 for that sequence. I see that the first term is 80. The common ratio is not 3, it is 1/3. If it was 3, we would have gone from 80 to 240. And there are 7. So then I have to go 1/3 to the 6th. And I end up with 80 over 729. Pretty much just write this out. Multiply by negative 2 a whole bunch of times and get negative 48. If you wanted to use the formula, it would look like this. So you get the same answer, negative 48.